Hi, and welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Leading the Way in Education. I'm your host, Andrea De La Cerda, and each week I'm bringing you insightful discussions and news about changes in the landscape of education and trends in entrepreneurship. As a former middle school teacher turned corporate communications executive, I'm here to share how my experience with corporate clients and as a business owner can and perhaps should influence the way we think about marketing and the educational ecosystem, what's working, what isn't working, and how to change the paradigm of public versus private once and for all. This episode is the second of a two-part series about optimizing funding for nonprofit organizations. Today, we'll talk about new, innovative ways to inspire and engage volunteers for your nonprofit. If you or someone is involved in a nonprofit organization that struggles to raise funds all year long, we have some resources in today's podcast that we hope will help you. So let's dive in. The value of one volunteer hour is currently estimated to be $31.80. 71% of all volunteers prefer to contribute their time on a regular basis as opposed to a single day's event or projects. That's a super important statistic when you're a nonprofit organizing around events. Make sure that you consider perhaps having a volunteer base, a group of people who are kind of your first and foremost, where you go right away. They really want to contribute on a regular basis. Most people want to feel connected to a nonprofit in a way that you wouldn't if you're just a one-off single-day event. And then America contributed an estimated 4 billion hours of their time in 2022, which is the most recent stat that we found. But what format are they volunteering in 2022? Are those in-person events or not? What we actually found is that virtual volunteering is the next generation of volunteering. So consider this in your current strategy. Developing virtual volunteer opportunities allows supporters to contribute their skills and expertise remotely and on a regular basis. This could include tasks like graphic design, writing, data entry, virtual mentoring, or perhaps many other formats depending on what your organization is. And so let's talk about some of the benefits of virtual volunteer opportunities. First, greater accessibility. Obviously, virtual volunteer opportunities allow volunteers with mobility issues, disabilities, or lack of transportation to participate. Think about rural communities where access is difficult, transportation can be difficult. That's certainly a benefit. Also, expanded reach. Virtual volunteering allows nonprofits to engage volunteers from a very diverse geographic locations, expanding reach beyond local communities. And another benefit, it's super cost effective. Virtual volunteering eliminates the need for physical infrastructure, travel expenses, and other overhead costs that might be associated with traditional volunteering. And finally, it provides a more global perspective. Virtual volunteers might have international backgrounds or experiences that provide nonprofits with a global perspective on issues and challenges. When you remove the barriers around your volunteers, you really open your nonprofit or open your organization up to so many global perspectives that can really only help aid in your efforts. So with this in mind, thinking about what virtual volunteers can do, consider the many creative ways that they can contribute to your organization. So we've talked about a few, but first, content creation. Volunteers with writing, graphic design, photography, or videography, they can create content for your website, blog, social media channels, and marketing materials remotely and on demand a lot of times. And also virtual tutoring or mentoring. Volunteers can help with career mentoring, personal coaching sessions to students or individuals in need of video conferencing platforms. They can also provide in a crisis response, they can provide some services remotely as well. So in terms of crisis or disaster, they can contribute remotely by providing virtual crisis counseling, coordinating relief efforts, offering remote support services to affected individuals, even if they are not there in person and on the ground. And also translation services. Consider if you have bilingual volunteers, what can they offer with regard to translation services? Translating documents could be website content, social media posts, or any other communication. But aside from leveraging virtual volunteers, creating a corporate partnership program can be another strategy to align your organization's mission with others to maximize support. Consider establishing partnerships with corporations or businesses that align with your organization's mission. Offer sponsorship opportunities. You can offer employee engagement initiatives or also cause-related marketing campaigns to businesses that are looking to support social causes, of which they are many. So platforms like Your Cause by Blackbaud helps nonprofits connect with corporate partners and secure sponsorships for programs, events, or initiatives that provide additional funding and visibility. But it does this by leveraging the data to make informed decisions. A good example of this is Microsoft. Microsoft is the largest contributor of corporate philanthropy funds. It has a 65% employee participation rate for annual giving campaigns, and nearly 50,000 Microsoft employees volunteered more than 1 million hours. Our employees donated $250 million, inclusive of company match, to over 35,000 nonprofits, according to Microsoft. So let's talk about some strategies and benefits of implementing corporate sponsorships like these. First, matching gift programs. We talked about this a little bit in the last episode, but just as a reminder, many corporations offer matching gift programs where they match donations made by their employees to eligible nonprofits. This doubles the impact of individual donations and encourages employees to contribute to charitable causes. It's also a very important way to activate the values of your organization in a way that your employees will see tangibly and respect. The top 10 most generous corporations donate over $2 billion annually to nonprofits, and much of it is through employee matching gift programs. But another aspect is event sponsorship. Corporate partners can sponsor nonprofit events. So think about even in your local community fundraisers, galas, community outreach events. I mean, there's so many of them. And sponsorship support can cover things like event expenses. They can increase in visibility, increase attendance at the event, provide networking opportunities for both the nonprofit and the corporate partner. All of these can be very beneficial. But how about employee fundraising campaigns? That's another strategy. Corporate partners can organize employee fundraising campaigns on behalf of the nonprofit. It could include things like workplace giving campaigns, peer-to-peer fundraising, employee volunteer initiatives that raise funds for the nonprofit while also boosting employee engagement and morale. I mean, if you think about it, think about the number of corporations that do fundraising campaigns during the course of the year that might just bring everybody together, bring everybody around like one mission and one event. It can not only raise money, but also really allow employees to together have a shared experience. But then there's cause marketing campaigns. So think about this. Collaborating with corporations on cause marketing will raise awareness and funds for a nonprofit. But these campaigns typically involve a partnership. So think about the corporation promotes the nonprofit's mission or specific campaigns through its own marketing channels. That could be through an internal email campaign. It could be through an external channel. And a portion of the sales proceeds that are raised during this time are donated to the nonprofit. That's another strategy. Here's another one. Explore grant funding. I mean, grant funding alone is a huge topic. Grants provide nonprofits with much needed financial support to fund their programs, projects, and even operational expenses. So I would consider like platforms that are really helpful, things like Grant Watch, Foundation Center, or Candid's Foundation Directory. All of these provide databases of grant opportunities for nonprofits. So if you're not sure what you might qualify for or what is even available and out there, leverage these databases because they can be really helpful. The top 3 challenges to grant seeking we've learned are reported as 1, lack of time and resources, We see this so much with our clients over and over again. Second is competition. So the number of people who are also applying for the same grant can seem really daunting. And the third is difficulty finding grant opportunities. But there's a significant number of financial opportunities out there to support community-based organizations. So consider a few of them. The top 3 grant-making foundations are Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Second is the Ford Foundation. And third, the Lilly Endowment. So these 3 foundations alone combine to a value of over $60 billion in investment assets. There's a tremendous opportunity there to provide support and increase the impact that you can do in your community just with even a portion of those funds. Federal grants represent 40% of government funding sources, behind the state government, which is 47%, to grant-seeking applications. To grant-seeking applicants. And corporations represent 17% of non-governmental grant funding. So that is a category that is often overlooked, but corporations sometimes can provide grants. So also something to consider. I mean, obviously accessing these funds, it really takes a tremendous amount of time, and it's a strategic approach. Is it worth it? I say yes. So let's talk about the benefits of investing the time to find and apply for these funds. First, consider your need for capacity building. Some grants specifically target capacity building initiatives. So think about your staff training, infrastructure development, technology upgrades. These investments help nonprofits strengthen organizational capacity to improve effectiveness and efficiency in delivering services directly in-house. But also, program expansion is another way of using these funds. They can enable you to expand existing programs or launch new initiatives that you've been considering to address emerging needs or opportunities in your community. This flexibility allows you to innovate and adapt programs to better meet the evolving needs of your constituents, which is consistently an issue. And consider partnership opportunities. I mean, securing grants can involve collaborating with funding organizations, government agencies, or other nonprofits. So these local partnerships can lead to valuable networking opportunities, resource sharing, knowledge exchange. All of these can benefit you beyond the scope of the grant itself. It's almost like an opportunity to exponentially grow the impact just by partnering with other organizations. But also credibility and validation. I mean, grants really help to provide reputable funding sources to enhance your credibility and validate the work in the eyes of donors, stakeholders, and your community at large. This recognition is invaluable. It can attract additional support and resources to your organization that you never thought possible. And also long-term sustainability. Grants are typically time limited, but they can help nonprofits build a foundation for long-term sustainability. By investing in strategic planning, program evaluation, fundraising capacity, you can position yourselves for continued success even after the grant period ends. So don't let that be a reason that stops you from applying for grants if you think this is only short term. I would suggest reframing that idea into, look, this funding allows us to set ourselves up for long-term sustainability. Here are some of the grants available. So if you can, there's some pros and cons to each, but here are some to consider. So government grants, federal, state, and local grants, they're funded by various departments within the U.S. government. You visit grants.gov. You can search grants by keyword or by the type of organization that is eligible for the grant, the agency in charge of the grant, or the grant category. So there's many resources there at that site to help you understand the process and how to use that grants.gov workspace while applying for grants. There's also federated fund grants. These are local organizations. They create a portfolio of charities and funnel donations to that portfolio. So some examples would be the United Way, UNICEF, Combined Federal Campaign. These organizations gain popularity by working with local businesses to enable employee giving. So while still strong in many communities, federal fund organizations are being replaced oftentimes by corporate social giving programs. So we're going to talk about that too in a minute. Also, grant-making foundation grants, they can range from a few $100s to millions of dollars. They're available to new nonprofits as well as those that are more established. You're more likely to find grants that cover operating and infrastructure needs here, as well as specific programs that's also available. And funding decisions are made by a board of directors at the foundation or a panel of community members based on the foundation's focus area. There are more than 86,000 grant-making foundations in the United States, and these give more than $84 billion in grants just in the year 2023. So there's definitely a tremendous opportunity here. There's also corporate grant making. So we talked about this a little bit, but there's charitable arms of large companies, and these foundations can align with specific causes. So some examples of this would be Land O'Lakes Foundation. It focuses on hunger, local communities, education. The Coca-Cola Foundation takes a much broader approach, which makes sense given Coca-Cola's very famous distribution strategy across the whole world, looking to make a difference across the world. Community grant making, in comparison, is really individuals, organizations, and businesses. They often will just pool their resources together across the community to create a foundation just specific to their geographic area. And these community foundations work to address issues that affect the people who live in that area. So consider what your nonprofit does. How far does it reach? Is it local, specific to your geographic region, or does its impact is it really felt much more broadly? This should be a key to maybe your strategy in which of these opportunities you really lean into. Your nonprofit business strategy should definitely align with your fundraising strategy. The two should make a lot of sense together. There's also, don't dismiss the independent and family foundations funded by an endowment from an individual or a family and run by an individual or someone in the family. So an example would be Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The individual or family members, they would have a specific say in the funding and the direction of the foundation. Independent foundations are still funded by an individual or the family, but the decisions and the direction are set by a leadership team, of course, and a board with less oversight from the family. So an example of that would be the Walton Family Foundation. I mean, there's so many different opportunities. There's a tremendous amount of money out there and available. And we spend a lot of time supporting nonprofit organizations in pursuing these opportunities. But it can be so daunting for our clients. We've learned, especially with those with really small teams, and you might relate to this. You might be an executive director of a team of 4 or a team of 5. It can be daunting when you consider how much research and planning is required to embrace some of these opportunities. I mean, which one is the best for you and why? And then how do you position yourself to really be competitive in making sure that you get a piece of the grants that are available? But I would say do not let that deter you. Organizations like ours, the Clover Agency, Kandula Communications, I mean, they're very positioned to support by evaluating the right business and the communication strategy to utilize funds to maximize your impact. If you have any questions at all about how to create the best fundraising strategy, we can just consider reaching out to our team for more information because we can definitely help you. We'd love to support you in your fundraising journey. Best of luck in your path to build your nonprofit to make a bigger impact in this world. I mean, truly. I mean, what you do is so critical. And we truly respect your dedication and commitment to contributing your talents and resources for the greater good. That's all we have for you today. Join us next week for another new episode. If you want to join our community of incredible nonprofit leaders, please reach out to us at team@kandulacommunications.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Catch us next week for another new episode. And just a reminder to